So that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle is in the fusion of the data, as I mentioned, because you have the DNA sequence, you have the variant data, but then you want the clinical data as well, the phenotypic data. Then maybe you need some imaging data, and you want to combine this data, right? The doctor needs to be able to have a holistic view of a patient in order to make decisions. And usually this data lives in different systems. It's extremely difficult for the doctor or any other practitioner to gain access to the data. Like first to find the data, like where is this clinical data? Which database system is it stored in? And also how do I gain access to it? Because there might be an administrator that has access, but I may not have access to this. And how do we do this securely? So the second problem is how to discover the data, how to actually find the data and then do something with it. So you need to catalog all this data and bring it in one system for secure operations. And that's the second problem that we're solving, like cataloging all this data in a secure way and granting access in a secure way to the appropriate people.
Yeah, the interesting part to me in this story is, so as we came through the pandemic, I think a lot of pharmaceutical companies came through and saw the fact that, they had all this disparate data for all the research that they had done for different types of studies, right? So whether it's SARS, MERS, Ebola, et cetera, and all of a sudden in COVID, those data sets were very much needed to carry the science forward, to try and find, how do we treat this thing? How do we attack it back and not just let it continue to kill humans? And the unfortunate thing is, I think, a lot of time was spent from people that honestly their brilliance is better spent in the lab or trying to figure out what's the next cure versus tagging data. And as I hear your story as well, this ability to continue to empower data catalogs is one of the things that I've often wondered, rather than spending human cycles on trying to figure out how to best tag data, wouldn't it be better to try and figure out a better way to have the machine figure it out, as well? I guess the second example that I would use as well is, whenever you see NGS data that comes in, oftentimes the data set is very broad, and these data scientists are absolutely brilliant in their way of saying, I want this piece, I don't want this piece. And so they just continue to sort of filter through the data until they can see a much clearer picture of the things that they're looking for. But unfortunately, they have to start with the broad data set and sort of continue that filtering and working through actual human samples to figure out how do we best bring the picture of, does the baby potentially have a life-threatening disease or something that could impact their life as well. And it sounds to me like TileDB, definitely something that, helps with that, in a large way.
Yes, absolutely. And you bring up a good point. You do have the data, it is somewhere, but you need to filter through. And you're going to be surprised. The way this data is stored usually is most typically in an object store like AWS S3, because it's a lot of data. You need it to be on the cloud and you need it to be inexpensive. So AWS S3 is a good choice for that. But then the data sets are codenamed. They have file name. It's files. S3 provides you with effectively a file system, right? It's like a virtual hard disk. That's how you should think about it. And you can browse the file names, but the metadata is not there. You need another system for metadata. You don't have descriptions, and it's difficult to locate this data. You need to be a true expert in code names and browsing S3. Imagine if you had a catalog and you can do either keyword search or even AI search, right? Like with an LLM. This is what TileDB does very, very easily. Once the data is in the system, once the data is registered properly in the system, and once you have the data registered properly in the system with all the metadata and everything that a scientist is supposed to be doing with this data, then we can start training AI models to figure out the next data that comes into the system. You see what I mean? Some folks, unfortunately, are jumping a couple of steps. They're they're skipping a couple of steps and they're saying, yeah, the AI is going to figure it out. The AI will figure it out once you have the proper data management and infrastructure in place to train it so that it understands what you want to do in the future. And again, we're big proponents of that.
Yeah. Yeah, ultimately so important. Can you tell us about any recent projects or collaborations that you're particularly excited about?
Absolutely. The one that I mentioned is one of the big ones with Ready Children's Hospital and Alexion on newborn screening. This is meaningful work. I mean, these people are brilliant. What we're doing is that we are accelerating them. This is exactly what we're saying. We're building in-house expertise as well. We have our own scientists, but they're doing the breakthroughs. But we are accelerating these breakthroughs with our technology. The other project that excites us a lot is what we're doing with the Charles Zuckerberg Initiative on building these big cell atlases. This is on RNA sequencing on single cell. And this data allows them and others, other companies like Celarity, for example, to build AI models on single cell data. And that's also amazingly important. This may accelerate the cure in cancer, for example, by understanding the complexities of the cell biology. So these are just some examples on what we've been doing with some of our customers.
Thank you. So as the founder of TileDB, what's been the most unexpected aspect of leading a startup?
Well, everything has been unexpected because everything was new. I'm a scientist by training, so I had to learn everything. So everything was unexpected. Fundraising, I didn't know how this goes. It's a whole game. How are you going to raise money? How are you going to convince investors, right, to fund this innovation? And as a scientist, I thought that would be obvious, right? Here, I'm building the best database system in the world. No, nobody owes you money for that. You see, it was a very big mental and philosophical shift for me in my mind that, no, this is not how things work. Similarly, for the customers, you may have the best technology ever. Still, the customer, for other reasons that are not in your control whatsoever, they may not go with your technology. It doesn't matter if you had the best evaluation and you're 20 times faster. It doesn't matter. Still, there are other things that need to be done in an organization to adopt your technology. And for me, that was astonishing, right? As a scientist, you think that I have the best database system, it needs to succeed. Well, that doesn't happen in the business world. You need to take care of other aspects of business to make this happen. And then, of course, building the team, building the proper culture, finding the right leaders. There are so many different aspects of the business that a leader needs to take care of. And all of this was astonishing to me. It's a completely different world from science.
That's a perfect transition to my next question. How do you balance the technical aspects with the business leadership responsibilities inside the organization?
In the past, I wasn't doing it, right? In the past, first of all, out of need, as we were scaling the company. I mean, I started the company as a single person, right? Then we became 4, then we became 12, then we became 50, right? Very slowly. So in the beginning, and for many years, I don't know for how long, probably 4 years or so, I was coding. I was an independent contributor in the code as any other one of my fellow teammates, right? But in order to scale the organization and in order to be able to tend to other aspects of the business, I had to step away from coding, from the technical aspects, and do more of the business aspects. Otherwise, you need to bring another business leader. And this was not happening in our case because, and I think for a good reason, and it's because to build a company like this, the leader needs to be extremely technical, extremely. They need to understand deeply the technology being built and the hurdles, as well as the customer's needs that are also technical and scientific. So you need to be able to understand both the technology, the science, and the business, all of these 3 things.